Hello, good evening. I'm just going to let this run for a moment just to see that people can see and that people can join. Apologies for the slightly delayed start. I just wanted to get a few bits and bobs sorted beforehand. Good. Thank you. Calm down, dog. How you doing? Thank you for joining, and thank you for everybody that's joining. I'm just going to let these numbers build up a little bit before I start off. It's not like your regular live that people would do, you know, so this isn't a business touting thing or anything like that. It's more of an appeal for assistance, an appeal for joined effort, and an appeal to finish a job that we've started that's all but done. So again, I'll just let this build and then I'll carry on. No doubt we have people joining. Hello, good evening. Can you just give me a thumbs up or just a yes that you can hear me, that the sound is coming through okay? Evening. Hello, Linda. Hello, Gavin. Anybody give me a thumbs up on the sound? Let me know that you can hear me. Just standing by for a moment on that. Just see. No worries. Can somebody let me know that you can hear me? Sheila, is that a yes that you can hear me? Yes. Great. Fantastic. Brilliant. Just so that I'm not talking to a blank screen, because that wouldn't be the first time. Anybody who's having difficulty with sound, it isn't at my end, it might be at your end. So if you want to just jump out and then jump back in on the live and see if it's any better, that would be fantastic. Numbers are building up really healthily here, really encouraging. Thank you so much for everybody for your support. Sounds like we're doing some kind of TV sales thing here, doesn't it? You know, not starting selling until too many people are watching or enough people are watching. I know I'm going to jump in and get into the nuts and bolts of things and what we're doing and what we're going to be asking for everybody to do. Let me just be clear about something. This isn't me asking you to do something. This is everybody asking everybody to do something again. So the last time that I did a video like this, the response was utterly phenomenal. Your response was utterly phenomenal. And to be pretty honest, you pretty much put a mark in history. If we carry on with the same sort of passion that we started off with, under the name of animal welfare and integrity and what's right, we're going to smash a mark in history that hasn't been achieved for decades. And there's a lot of people that are going to end up with egg on their face, which is why you're seeing a lot of backlash that you're seeing on social media and in print media as well. But I'll come on to that later on. Let me just go a little bit more. Good evening to everybody who is anti-electronic collar, anti-welfare of dogs, pro your own ideology. I know you'll be watching, so please do feel free to join us. Share it on your own social media channel. Share it on your own private forums where you can say about how terrible a people everybody on here is and how wrong everybody is. And you can cite the same stuff that you've been citing for decades, but in your heart of heart, you know that you're wrong. But welcome anyway. Thank you for joining. Thank you for increasing the numbers and thank you for watching. We'll be kicking off in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to go, if we can get 3 more, we're on 147. If we can get 150 on there, then I'll kick off and we'll go from there. If not, we'll just go from where we are. Do you know what? There's so many messages of support and I echo, there we go, we've bust through that one already. So many messages of support and so many messages of encouragement in there and all the emojis that are absolutely showing power and strength and a resilience and a determination and absolute commitment to do what's right. Thank you so much for that to everybody that's pumping that, because I pump it straight back at you. We all do. It's a complete reciprocal feeling. So as you will know, from posts that have been put up, or a post that I put up earlier on towards the end of July, and that was shared on social media as well, we, as in members, not members, supporters of the Association of Responsible Dog Owners, and other people who don't have anything to do with the Association of Responsible Dog Owners, but are themselves responsible dog owners, animal lovers, people that are sick and tired of seeing science and truth get twisted and bent to achieve a personal or an ideological aim, people who actually want to finally see something that is right being done. Thank you. We achieved something phenomenal, which is stopping an affirmative statutory instrument from going before the House of Commons. Okay? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Hundreds of affirmative statutory instruments pass through the UK Parliament every year, and they float through, they're nodded through, there's no objection, there's no, do you know what I mean, deliberation as to whether or not it should be or it shouldn't be. They just go through. This one didn't. This one didn't, which is why you're seeing the backlash that you're seeing from the pro-ban lobby, from the people who are thinking, hang on a second, why hasn't this worked? Why haven't you banned government? We've put enough money into pumping this for years. We've got a lot riding on this. We've got science that we've been involved in the commissioning and the completion of supporting this. We've got narrative. We've got celebrities, B-list celebrities supporting this. Why hasn't it happened? And I'll tell you now, those organisations, for the first time in their existence, have come up against the truth. They've come up against the people that they speak about, which is us, the responsible dog owners, the true animal lovers. I'm not saying that everybody in those organisations is an anti-animal lover. That's not what I'm saying at all. But we are true, genuine, honest animal lovers who are providing experience, our own experience. And we're also providing the whole science, which is not what these organisations expected. It's not what they used to, which is why you can now see them gripping hold of their cot rails and bouncing up and down in their romper suits with a nappy full of feces because they haven't got their way. They're not used to getting their way. So they're spitting their dummies all over social media by getting more B-list celebrities to support what they're saying, regurgitating the same non-science, pseudoscience, cherry-picked science, and completely and utterly emotive, sensationalized, inaccurate narrative to try and ensure that their investment over the years yields a return. That's not what we're about. That isn't what we're about, which is why your MP, my MP, many MPs, and now the government as a whole has actually put the brakes on and thought, hang on a minute, there's more to this than we've been sold. There's more to this than we've been told, because there is more to this. And that's me, my dogs, you, your dogs, anybody else with the animals that their dogs affect. Society, you'll need to conform to law. You'll need to provide what is morally and legally right for your dogs and for other animals. They didn't expect that, because never in the history before have people stood up and said, no, I'm sorry, you're speaking about me. You're not speaking to me. Allow us to have a voice. This is what we're going to say, and we're saying it bloody loud, which is what we've done, which is why we are where we are at the moment. And they're kicking and screaming, so we need to ensure that we hammer that final coffin nail into this absolutely ludicrous anti-animal welfare proposal that's being put forward. I have notes down here. I can see there are some fantastic comments coming through, and I just want to give you information, and then we can sort of like engage with some of the comments if we can. But it's really, really important that I give you factual information, because the difference between us and them is that we are coming from the heart. Okay, we're not coming from something that we wish to be true. We're not coming from something that we've been told and we think is true. We're coming from experience. And on the 4th of August, we collated the latest and last collection of the ARDO, the Association of Responsible Dog Owners, electronic training collar user survey. So for those who don't know, obviously many people will have taken part in it and will have contributed. For those who don't know, that survey has been an open survey for anybody to fill in for the last 5 years, with one caveat. And that caveat is that you have or have had experience in the use of electronic training collars. Now, what we have come up with at the end here is over 2,500 people have completed that survey. That's a massive number of people, and it's incredible effort on your part to have done that. And I personally thank you massively, and I should imagine dogs all around the world thank you massively as well for actually, coming forward and speaking out and sharing your experiences about their experiences. And I'm going to touch on some of the results. They'll also go up on the joinardo.com website tomorrow, so that the existing forms on there will be replaced by these ones, so that you can see for yourself what those statistics revealed. And they it excludes tens of pages of free text where people have poured their emotion into what they want to go behind simply filling out a form. They've told their stories, they've shared their journeys, and some of them are heartbreaking, some of them are incredibly encouraging to read. But the fact of the matter is, there's a biblical amount of information there, first-hand information from people that have used electronic training collars as part and parcel of a holistic training journey with their dog. Okay, which basically means that it's not just electronic training collars, but they realize or recognize that for their dog or for other animals in certain circumstances, that tool has proved a necessary addition. And the results are astounding from over 2,500 people. So as you will know, as I say, the push by the Kennel Club, by Dogs Trust, by the RSPCA, by Battersea, by Blue Cross, and others, including the British Veterinary Association, has come back with a, whoa, we might not get this through. This certainty that we've banked on, because everything else that we generally push on, we get our way, it hasn't come to fruition. So, let me get into it. One of the main aspects of this, one of the principal aspects of this whole campaign from the anti-electronic training collar body, the lobby, the groups, is their connection with one another. Okay, so all of the organisations that I've just named are connected to one another, to the point that they form the Animal Behaviour Training Council as an umbrella group under which the majority of them, not all, but the majority of them sit. So you have individual groups who also come together to call themselves a collective, who also appear in parliamentary advisory groups as the same people who are involved in writing guidance and structuring policy for government, and who refer to the Animal Behaviour and Training Council as being the group of people that you should go to. So what you've basically got here is a national self-referral scheme. There's a lot invested in that, you know, to be able to take a government and say, we're the ones that you need to be listening to, which is why, as I say, they're not comfortable with and they're not familiar with people standing up and saying, you're not speaking for me. You're not speaking for me. You didn't ask my opinion with my dog. You haven't asked my experience. In fact, you've ignored it. You've ignored it. You've ignored me. And that's not good enough. So what you've got is these groups that are then kicking off. And let me just bring you to something. One of the principal things that you really feel like doing, that I feel like doing, as perhaps I've just brought across there, you know, in that sort of like introductory chat, if you like, is the fact that it makes you angry. It makes you angry. It triggers an emotional response in you. Okay, a visceral response, if you like. It makes you feel frustrated. It makes you want to kick back and to retaliate with emotion yourself, because nobody's listening to your story. They're telling lies about the way that your journey has actually been. They're, as far as you're concerned, as far as you're aware, and as far as your own research has revealed, they're not presenting the full truth. They're distorting fact in order to support themselves, which is incredibly frustrating, incredibly annoying. Now, for some of those groups, it doesn't come as a surprise. If you're prepared to make a living from the deformation of another living being so that it fits a particular visual image that you have, then it wouldn't really surprise me that you're also the sort of organisation that's going to tell lies. When actually held to account directly to give a direct response to the Scottish Government, have you ever seen any intentional or unintentional misuse of an electronic training collar? The Kennel Club replied, no. No. So for anybody who doesn't know that, I've said that before, but for anybody who doesn't know that, that's an absolute fact. If you search the Scottish Government consultation documents, you will find it. Look for the Kennel Club's response, look for that question, and you will find no. We have none. The British Veterinary Association also have no evidence of intentional or unintentional misuse. The RSPCA have got no prosecutions. The police have never had any prosecutions. This is in decades. Okay, so this isn't something new. So this is what we've got. Now, of everybody that you would want to believe in as a dog owner, of everybody that you would want to, of any of those organisations that you would want to stake your flag in saying, these people are going to be honest, these people are going to be upfront, these people are going to be basing their decision on absolute fact, on scientific certainties as much as possible, it would be your British Veterinary Association. Your British Veterinary Association, well, they're the people representing the people who look after our dogs. I've entrusted the life of my dog twice this year alone with fantastic vets, Whether they're a member of the British Veterinary Association, I don't know. But the British Veterinary Association allegedly speaks for the UK's vets. Now, the British Veterinary Association have made a statement, their policy statement, and I'll read it to you. This is their existing, I'll show you that one. Okay. This is their existing policy position on the use of aversive training devices in dogs and cats. Evidence demonstrates that positive training methods are the most, for a start, what is a positive training method? You're a scientific organisation. We're not children. Explain what a positive training method is. You know, if we're talking about science and you're supposed to be scientific, what is a positive training method? Explain it. But anyway, listen. Evidence demonstrates that positive training methods are the most effective training intervention for companion animals in terms of health, welfare, and behavioural outcomes. Positive training is the most effective. It doesn't say when. There's no context. Context is completely and utterly removed from there. It just is the most effective training. So let's assume that positive training is the exclusion of anything negative for the dog. So the dog never experiences a negative emotional state. It never experiences a negative state of affairs. Everything is designed to be fun, happy, rewarding, positive in the lay sense, in the layperson sense. And that training approach or training methods are the most effective intervention for companion animals in terms of health, welfare, and behavioural outcomes. Now, the first question that you would want to ask a veterinary trade body or a veterinary representative body who makes that statement is, can I see the evidence? Now, if I'm asking you for the evidence for having a dog to sit and give paw, for a dog to recall in my back garden, for a dog to lay down on a mat, you know, in a hall whilst I move away from it, or for a dog to give me eye contact, I don't really need to ask. I can tell you that absolutely using that criteria, that description, the use of those training methods is a very effective way of training those behaviors, 100%. But what I would also ask you is that training method, positive training methods, the most effective training intervention for companion animals when they're chasing after other living beings that they perceive to be prey? Now, that can be anything. Be it livestock, be it wildlife, be it birds, be it companion pets, cats, dogs. If that dog is in the process of predating, chasing after, with the intent of doing harm to one or any or all of those animals in a particular situation, do you have scientific evidence to confirm and support your statement that positive training methods are the most effective training approach? Now, that's the question you'd ask, right? And that question was asked to the head of the BVA by a journalist at the Sunday Times. Now, it took the head of the BVA quite some time to come back to that journalist at the Sunday Times, and this was asked relatively recently. And what the head of the BVA came back with, or the respondent of the BVA came back with, was a non-answer, was an evasive answer, was a distinct lack of scientific evidence to confirm the BVA statement that positive training methods are the most effective approach in that instance. Now, that's hardly surprising because there isn't any evidence to confirm that. Well, there is plenty of evidence to show that the inclusion of electronic training collar, responsible inclusion of electronic training collar, has yielded great results in either causing dogs not to want to chase after the animal in the first place, or being able to break and interrupt that chase behaviour when the dog is going. Primarily, not choose to chase after that animal in the first place, because that would be the most safe, the most responsible, do you know what I mean? The most preventative approach that you could possibly take. But the BVA haven't been able to produce that evidence. Now, that's concerning. That's concerning. So I'm going to bring you on to an ask, and what I'm going to ask you to do, or what the Association of Responsible Dog Owners is going to ask you to do, because it's not just me. There's a lot of people that are wanting answers, and there's a lot of people that are very, very keen on ensuring that decisions in government are made on sound scientific research and actual lived evidence and experience. That's very, very important, because you can fabricate one, but you can't fabricate the observable evidence. It either is or it isn't. So let me just bring you over. If you go over onto don't do it yet because it will kick you out of the Facebook Live. But if you go onto the joinardo.com website, you will see, so it's just basically joinardo.com, and you click that and you will see at the homepage on the top there is a red banner. And that red banner will say, we need you to help in this next push. If you click that banner, it will take you to a page on the Ardo website, which will read to you or give you what I'm about to read you now. Now, the instructions are very, very straightforward. Okay, so it's basically a letter there. There's a pretext that's written to be essentially thanking you, understanding exactly how, hopefully you can see that I feel exactly how you feel. We all feel exactly how you feel. Trainers, owners, anybody that's got an interest in responsible dog ownership and promoting and maintaining the welfare, the safety, the freedom and the control of our dogs so they don't become a menace to themselves or to other members of society, and to prevent unnecessary destructions or accidents or injuries to other animals or themselves. So let me just read you on to this. So I've written that introduction there thanking you. And then I've come on to the letter. Excuse me for having to read it down here, but if I look on the screen there, I'm going to have to kick you out a moment. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to bring you in again here. Just our opportunity to demonstrate this, which is that the electronic training collar is a highly effective training tool, specifically in controlling predation towards not just livestock, but livestock and other animals. Other animals, anything that the dog sees to be a prey target, and to be able to control the dog when off lead in those situations, whether it's prevent the dog from going after them in the first place, or to be able to assist in recalling the dog back and enhancing that recall procedure in those sort of situations, which you cannot always predict. You can't walk where there's no birds. You can't walk where there's no deer, scent of deer. You can't walk where a rabbit isn't going to suddenly run out, or a hare, or a pheasant from the hedge. Do you know what I mean? You can't, even if you think, well, you can walk where there's no livestock. Yeah, okay, I can until there is. So it's just responsible, as we've always been, responsible, preventative approach. Let me read you this. An opportunity to demonstrate this has been provided by the British Veterinary Association. The BVA has made a huge mistake in claiming that positive training methods are the most effective training. As responsible dog owners, we all know that context is massively important. Training a dog to give paw for a hot dog in a hall is one thing. Training them not to suddenly take off after sheep, deer, squirrels, birds, or countless other animals is something completely different. Recently, a top Sunday Times journalist has challenged the BVA to show evidence for this claim. The BVA's eventual response is embarrassing for its evasiveness. Why would vets support something that is scientifically proven to prevent harm and protect animals when they have no alternative, no evidence that the alternative even works? Even more worrying when vets have admitted that they destroy a third of healthy dogs under 3 years old for undesirable behaviours. You know, we ought to be looking for science to say, okay, what are those undesirable behaviours? How much of those undesirable behaviours are their inability to control a dog whilst it's off lead? Do you know what I mean? How many of those undesirable behaviours are what we would term aggression towards other animals? Do you see what I mean? We need to be looking at that before we're throwing things out. We need to be looking at the own evidence, because the own evidence isn't showing that positive training methods are having a positive welfare impact on the animal at the end of the lead or other animals affected by that animal. So this mistake by the BVA of making a statement that is unscientifically supported provides a new avenue. It provides a very, very important avenue. And this isn't a tit for tat thing. This is, we look for things that are obvious flaws that are detrimental to welfare. This is one of them. Making a statement like that from a national representative of veterinarians is problematic. Highly problematic, particularly when the welfare of thousands of dogs and other animals depends upon it. So at Ardo, we've put together a letter that we would like you to send to your MP. It's simple. Now, the temptation, whenever there's a simple letter, is to add more, is to flood it with more, is to allow that anger and that frustration and that absolute, determination to pour into that letter as well. To overtake the letter and to basically overpower the message of the letter. But please believe me, what you have done, you don't need to believe me, you can see it yourself. What you have done, what we have done to this point is absolutely groundbreaking. It works, which is why all of these charities are now battling like mad to try and say to the government, stop it, you said you'd do it, spin it around, here's our narrative, here's our more emotive, and she said it, she's a B-list celebrity from this morning, and this person over here said it, and they've got a behaviourist accreditation behind them, so it must be true, but we're not actually providing you with any more evidence. We're not actually providing you with additional scientific support for our story, because there is none. And what you've provided isn't enough. So by the BVA standing by this narrative, minus the evidence to support the claim that positive training methods are the most effective approach, even when we're talking about predation by dogs, minus evidence is very, very concerning. Let me read you the letter. It's on the Ardo site anyway, as I say. Joinardo.com, red banner at the top of the page. Click it. It will take you straight through this, and I'm going to talk you through it. To your MP, dear whoever your MP may be, as one of your constituents, I recognise how difficult it is for MPs to know who to trust given the complex issues you face. On animal welfare, I expect you believe the British Veterinary Association bases its policies on scientific evidence. However, on an important issue for me, the BVA is making a key policy claim without any evidence. This concerns the training of dogs with e-collars to ensure that they do not attack or chase other animals. The BVA claim that the most effective way to train a dog is to instead rely on what it calls positive training. This means just giving rewards, like biscuits. Training a dog to give its paw for a hot dog is one thing. However, training it not to suddenly take off after sheep, deer or birds is completely different. Yet when the Sunday Times asked the BVA for scientific evidence to support its claim that positive-only training stops dogs from attacking other animals, they failed to provide any evidence. So please would you write to the BVA and ask them to quote any scientific research which says that their positive training is effective at stopping dogs attacking other animals. Their emails are, and the email addresses are in the letter there. I expect that their boss, Malcolm Morley, will try an evasive answer. An evasive answer with you too. So would it be all right for dog owners to come along to Parliament to point this out the next time the BVA speaks to MPs? The BVA is a trusted body. It is a trusted body that speaks at parliamentary processes during parliamentary meetings. As a trusted body, you cannot afford to discredit yourselves, to show yourselves as being untrustworthy by making blanket statements that lack the evidence to support them. Therefore, if you are not prepared to respond to MPs, then we will attend parliamentary meetings where you are speaking, and we will make it absolutely known that you are prepared to make statements that affect the welfare of thousands of innocent animals based on a lack of scientific evidence. It simply isn't good enough. There's lots of science showing that short sessions of e-collar training make dogs wary of approaching vulnerable animals. See the evidence below. There's a list of evidence below the letter that gets sent to your MP as well. This response can last for years. Compare that with Wales, where e-collars were banned. The Telegraph reported that Wales suffers from 4 times more dog attacks. One final thought. I would like to say how grateful I am to all the MPs who have urged DEFRA not to go ahead with banning e-collars. To do so next February, at the start of lambing season, would be a catastrophe. Yours sincerely with your name. Now that letter, I urge you to send it to your MP. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It avoids us getting dragged into the emotive counter arguments, the emotive responses, you know, the sort of like frustration-fueled grit that you want to say by providing a straightforward question to a straightforward, very problematic situation for the British Veterinary Association, which is a statement that has been made and a question that has been asked for evidence to support that statement that has gone unanswered. Okay? That is what I would ask you to do. Again, I'm going to repeat myself by just saying, I'll also put the link in the comments under here. So for anybody who perhaps has misheard or, you know, doesn't for whatever reason have access to a web browser, the internet, to be able to go to the Join Ardo site, or maybe you don't want to go to the Join Ardo site, that's absolutely fine. I'm sure that our friends who are watching from the other side of the fence will be straight over to the Join Ardo site. But I would encourage you to go there. And on there as well is instructions as to how to find your MP. There is also a link to the a Google document of the letter. So if you prefer, you can just copy the link, post it into your own email to your MP and just send it. Okay, so as I say, as much as it is absolutely frustrating and as much as you may want to amend the letter or add to it, please just let it speak for itself. What we are doing is working. What you are doing is working. We have done absolutely astronomical things, absolutely unbelievable things in preventing what has been prevented thus far. So to complete the final part of that race and to absolutely turn around and show your teeth at the people who are threatening you with a loss of ability to be able to control and protect your dog or other animals, please send that letter to your MP. Now on the, I know there'll be some bits on here with some questions that have been coming through on the comments. Now I can't slide back through all of them, but I just want to touch on a couple of things. The most important thing of all is that letter is sent, but I just want to touch on a couple of things here. First of all is a statement that's been made by in parliamentary press. Okay, a parliamentary newspaper. It's an article. It's a paid for article. Okay, so if you've got the money, you can get things to go where you want them to go. And there's a statement that's made in this article, and I should imagine it's Kennel Club influenced, if not written. The police have identified time and time again that most livestock worrying is done by, so here we're just narrowing to livestock only, okay? So I know that isn't an effect of everybody. I know that not everybody lives rurally, not everybody exercises their dogs rurally, but I'd also know that a heck of a lot of people are affected by deer, rabbits, squirrels, birds, other dogs, cats, that sort of thing. When you've got a dog who's got a little bit of oomph about him, when you've got a dog who thinks the tail of a squirrel is a little bit more tasty for me than the hot dog that's suddenly gone limp in your hand. The police have identified time and time again that most livestock worrying is done by animals that are not with their owner. That's true. Okay, most livestock worrying occurs when the dog is not with their owner, so they're at distance from their owner. Doesn't say how far from their owner, but they're at distance from. The owner isn't present. But may live locally and have escaped their garden, likely without their owner's knowledge. That part isn't true. That is a conclusion that was reached in the National Police Chief Council's Five Force report that looked at livestock worrying, and it found that, I've said this before, but up to 80, and anybody who doesn't know, up to 89% of attacks on sheep by dogs occurred when there was no owner present. That's what it said, no owner present. The inference was then, well, if there's no owner present, they must have escaped from home, or perhaps the most of them have escaped from home. There wasn't this 89% of people said, yeah, I wasn't present because my dog had escaped from home. Now, just to show you something, when we go over to the ARDO research, to the survey research for users of electronic training collars, whose dogs may have chased or attacked, not just livestock or other animals. And the question, when it comes to escaping, dogs having escaped the home to go and attack, 1% of people said that was a situation. 1% of 2,500 respondents have said that their dog escaped the garden. The vast majority of other people was when their dog was either acting in a particular way whilst they were on lead, or when they had escaped from their owner's control, which is something completely different. So the owner doesn't necessarily need to be present for my dog to belt off through woodland, or to shoot from a park into a nearby field, or to go from a footpath, or to go from a beach up a cliff face. You know, I've personally worked with dogs that have chased and attacked goats and sheep that have been on cliff tops, whilst the owners have been exercising the dogs on empty beaches. So they're beyond their owner's control. The owner wasn't present, but they certainly haven't escaped their homes. Now, let me just give you the extent of these people's understanding. These are people that are telling the government that they are the font of knowledge when it comes to canine behaviour, when it comes to changing canine behaviour, training dogs, when it comes to the use of aversive interventions, when it comes to the use of electronic training collars. These people know their onions, which is why they're speaking to the government. How is a shock collar meant to tackle this? Are owners meant to simply press the trigger just in case? As the timings of these incidents are by nature unpredictable, is the dog meant to wear the collar permanently? If so, that isn't training, and proponents of their use are failing to answer these questions. No, they're not. Proponents of their use aren't failing to answer the questions. You just don't like listening to the answers. That's the problem. And for an organisation or a group of organisations which at parliamentary level are advising ministers on decisions that affect the lives of my dog, your dogs, and other animals, to not even understand the most basic of Pavlovian conditioning, which basically means a thing happens, a consequence happens. I associate the consequence with the thing, therefore the thing becomes associated with the consequence. You don't need to be there to press buttons because your dog associates the animal it was chasing with having been the cause. And if you had the first clue about how to train a dog, or certainly through the inclusion of any kind of negative association, any responsible use of electronic training collars, then you would be embarrassed about asking that question, about making that statement, because what you've basically said is, we don't know what we're talking about. So listen to our emotive argument anyway. So I say this to head people off at going down that funnel, okay? When these organisations, they realise they're on the back foot here, they realise they've got a problem. So I'm basically going to give a scattergun response to desperately try and split the alliance of you, I, all of us, who are basically achieving what they do not want us to achieve. So if I throw this here and I throw this here and this sounds horrible and this makes you angry and such, and we split and we start going off in all those directions to try and firefight those minor fires rather than dealing on the task in hand, they'll succeed. So we can't do it. We know that what they're saying is absolute nonsense. We know that there's no evidence to support statements that are being made. We know that you're not harming, abusing your dog, that an electronic training collar doesn't by default cause harm or unnecessary suffering to a dog. We know this. So there's no need to invest your energy into firefighting, but there's every need to invest your energy in pushing forward, get this letter back, get this in front of your MP, land it on the email pile above the top of all this nonsense that they're asking people to send out. So desperate are the likes of the Kennel Club and their friends, Dogs Trust, RSPCA, etc., that they're actually encouraging people from other countries to send letters to Lord Benyon, the Secretary of State at DEFRA, or to, obviously not to MPs because the MPs won't have them, but they just want anybody send my letter that says I train my dog with rewards, that I train my dog responsibly with rewards, and that I think these are terrible. There's absolutely nothing to substantiate that claim. Anybody can send a letter. So you may not even have a dog. You may not even like dogs. You may just not like somebody, or you may not like the idea of somebody using an electronic training collar. You don't know anything about it, such as Kate Lawler, the B-list celebrity who's put up a post on Instagram talking about it, admits by her own admission that she doesn't have any experience or, first-hand understanding of electronic training collars, but has shared a post on behalf of the RSPCA anyway. You don't see what I mean? When you're seeing that sort of response, that sort of desperate counter struggle, then you know you're on the right path. So stay on it. Please stay on it with me and with everybody else. 2,500 of us. And that's just including the people that have filled out the survey. More than 2,500 sent emails last time. That's incredible. Absolute incredible number of emails landing on an MP's desk. So let me just tell you a little bit more, and then I'm going to leave you in peace. I'll have a look at a few questions, or maybe I'll come back to the questions afterwards and answer them after the live. But from our survey, 2,503 respondents, that survey has now been closed, okay? It's been temporarily suspended because it's absolutely inevitable that you'll get loads of people who haven't got any experience jumping on as a result of this. Well, it's ended anyway, but it's just as well, because you put out a live like this and you can see that people, negative. Let me just fill it to make it look absolutely terrible for you. But fortunately, over the past 5 years, that isn't what's happened. There have been some negative comments on there. That's fine. They've been incorporated into the overall statistics. It's got to be honest. We've got to have integrity there. Chase behaviours, the use of an electronic training collar for chase behaviours, 46% of use. Recall, 33% of use. Now, recall isn't stipulated, so it could be recall under high distraction of something that the dog wants to chase. But ultimately, 79% of use is for off-lead control, or making sure that the dog is safe themselves, safe towards other animals. And that's fine, yeah, okay, so 79% of people use them, but how effective is it? 98.6% of people report that there have been no negative effects on their dog as a result of using that electronic collar. 98.6%. Nigh on 99% of people, no negative effects. That is why you cannot find any real world evidence of unnecessary harm or suffering caused to a dog by loving dog owners through the responsible inclusion of an electronic training collar to secure a genuine, legitimate welfare outcome. That is why, because there aren't the welfare concerns that you're jumping and shouting about. Did it work? Did it achieve the aim? 93% of people said yes. 6.2% of people said other, such as still in progress. 93% of people. These aren't friends. They're not people. It's not shared on a Facebook group, a closed Facebook group. You know, they're not people following a particular. It's a survey that has been shared. If you've got experience, fill it in. 93% of people say it resolved the issue. Here's another thing as well. 45% of the people have owned dogs for over 20 years. These aren't idiots. These aren't lazy people with no idea of what they're doing. Over 20 years. 45% of people. But they never had a dog like this. They've never been in a situation like this. And so they have to try and use an alternative method to try and protect their dog. Abide by the law. Make sure that they live up to social expectations of what is expected of a responsible person who owns a dog. That is an opportunistic predator at the end of your lead or off your lead. These are the sort of people that we're talking about. 60% of people heard about electronic training collars through a trainer. If you want to go ahead and blanket ban something, so you say, okay, it is now criminal for trainers to be able to assist people. People would do it anyway. People would go for it anyway because they care more about their dogs than they do about a law. It's as simple as that. The vast majority of people would just take the chance. But what you remove is the ability of those people to seek professional guidance. That's what you take away. What you add, what you increase, is the risks associated to those dogs or to other animals through people not understanding what they're doing, not being able to ask people what they're doing. Now, there might be the thought here of, oh, hang on a minute, Jamie, you're admitting here that there's a potential risk. Everything has a potential risk. When I step outside my front door in the morning, there's a potential risk. I do everything that I can to minimize potential risks. And if it's a situation I'm unfamiliar with, and I know that there's potential risks, and there's somebody that I'm able to get advice from, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll learn. But I can't do that if you remove that. And removing advice for a non-welfare issue for something that is a hypothetical problem that you've dreamed up, exaggerated and sensationalized to remove the actual ability for people to seek genuine assistance in going down that path is not a pro-welfare move. That's an anti-welfare move. It's dangerous, it's reckless, and it's cruel. So listen, folks, unless there's anything that suddenly pops up on here question-wise, I'm going to leave you to your evening. I really, really thank you for joining me. I would ask you that you share this link if you can, you know, to other people so that other people can also see it as well. Judge it on what it is. If you think they're lying, they're lying. The evidence that's at the bottom of the letter, go to the Ardo letter. As I say, once again, joinardo.com, go to that website, click the red banner at the top. The red banner will take you through to a page which has got the letter on there. And at the bottom of that letter is evidence to support the fact that electronic scientific evidence, repeated scientific evidence, to support the fact that electronic training collars are beneficial and don't cause unnecessary harm or suffering to dogs or other protected animals when used in the control of controlling dogs or preventing predation in those sort of situations. So please do that. Please go there. And if you want to challenge it, if you don't want to do it, if you think I disagree with it, then that's fine. That's entirely up to you. I'm not trying to ask people who know nothing to do something because that something values us as a collective. I'm asking people to do what's right and to not allow yourself to be again, you know, blinded by people that are stepping forward and advising governments and telling them we've got evidence of something, scientific evidence of something that is not conclusive, not present, or certainly not unbiased or repeated. It needs to be solid. It needs to be robust. So when you have an organisation like the British Veterinary Association who are saying that as far as they're concerned, positive training is the most effective training, but cannot provide any evidence whatsoever of how that statement transfers over when the dog is in a state where it can and wants to chase after another living being. Then we've got a problem. So thank you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Thank you very much for your comments. I haven't read them. I've seen that they're coming up. It's incredible, the amount of comments that are coming up. It's not me, it's us. Everything that I do is everything that we do. The amount of people that share things, the more you share this, the more that you get people who actually do see this for what it is, to contact their MPs, to send that letter, the better. So I'm going to leave you to your evening. As I say, thank you very much for myself. Thank you very much for absolutely everyone at the Association of Responsible Dog Owners, every supporter. Thank you from every dog at the end of every lead who's benefited or may benefit, is yet to benefit from the responsible inclusion of electronic training collar. Thank you for every sheep, every cow, every pony, every alpaca, every bird, every wildlife animal, every deer that those dogs would otherwise represent a threat to, every cat, every kitten, every other dog, everything that we know science has shown us that the use of these tools is capable of preventing those issues from happening in the first place. Thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining me.